Hey guys, good morning. How are you? Today I just want to do a quick little video to show you how you can use up your batting scraps. You know, I make a lot of queen size quilts for different clients, so I tend to end up with these kind of strips that are like, 16 to 18 inches long, where I've bought a queen size batting, which usually tends to be a little oversized, and then you trim some off. So I have quite a big pile of strips like this, and you don't want to throw these away. Batting's expensive. This is nice. You know, if you're using cotton like me, it's definitely not cheap, and it's fairly well made stuff, so you want to put it to some good use. So whether you take a long strip like this and sew, a couple pieces together to make something small like a baby quilt, or you do what I'm doing today, where I'm going to take several long strips and sew them in rows to make a nice big piece to finish off a queen size that I'm working on, it's definitely worth it to hang on to these. So the first tip I want to give you is when you have a new piece of batting and you cut off the scraps, save the plastic bag. That way when you go and you're looking for some pieces to join, you know what's what. You don't want to join, say, like a piece like this that's like a nice natural cotton with something that's polyester. I mean, you probably could if you wanted to, but over time, especially if it's something like a baby quilt that might go through the washing machine, those different fibers are going to react differently in the wash. And you might have a section of quilt that kind of compresses over time, and a section that gets kind of fluffy. It might make it a little uneven. Not a big deal if you're just throwing something together for yourself, but if you're giving it as a gift, or like definitely for me, if I'm making it as a client, I want it to come out as a quality product. So I always keep the bags. That way when it gets to the point where I'm starting to join some pieces, I know that I'm working with the same material. I also tend to be fairly particular about what I buy, so I regularly buy the same brands. But as you've seen any of my other videos, you'd notice that a lot of times I work with fusible batting. That's something really important. You wouldn't want to join a piece of, even if it's still cotton, you don't want to join something that's fusible, that has glue in it, with something that's not, because that's going to give you a headache when you go to put your quilt together. The other little tip I want to give you is if you tend to sew with a 1/4 inch foot, you're going to want to take that off and just go with something, like a nice open-toed foot. You could even do like a satin stitch foot, but the quarter inch foot has this little ski here, which helps you keep your guide, but this can very easily get snagged and caught in the fibers of, this nice fluffy batting. So you don't want that. So definitely switch out your foot. All right, guys, so the first thing I'm going to show you is what not to do. So I have two little scraps here, and what I want to show you is, you can see this one has a pretty nice flat, straight side, but this one's kind of wonky. So what you want to do is, I should mention that you can iron this. So if you have a piece like this one that's been kind of like crumpled up, it's got a lot of big wrinkles or ripples in it, you can absolutely iron it. It is cotton, so it's just fine. Or assuming you purchase cotton. This is cotton. Anyways, as you can see, if I go to line these up, I've got gaps and things like that. You want to just take, a nice ruler and and your rotary cutter or whatever, and give everything a nice clean cut. Even if they're a little angled, that's not a big deal, but we're going to be sewing a wide zigzag, so you really want to have a nice straight side. It's just going to make the project go smoother, so you can butt the edges up together with less issues. Okay, so here you can see we have two sides that are nice and smooth. They got a nice clean cut to them. Makes it super easy to line them up. And I'm using, as you can see, my nice open foot here. This is just a general, universal foot. And I've got the gap here, like running straight down the center. I am using isocord thread, which, you've probably heard me mention 1,000 times, is an embroidery thread, but I love it. It's wonderful for everything. So the next thing I'm going to show you is, if I go ahead and switch my machine to the zigzag stitch, it has a standard setting, which if you have a digital machine like mine, it'll be standard. If you have a dial machine, it's going to be clearly whatever you left it on. So my standard starts at 4.0, which is the width, and then 0.3, which is the length. Okay, so how close or far apart the stitches are. So I want to show you what that standard stitch looks like down here, and you can see I've got my little gap lined up right in the middle. So I'm going to put my needle down. I'm using black thread, so hopefully you can see. And I'm going to go ahead and run it just a little bit. And I'll stop. As you can see, if I was satin stitching or something, this might be nice. But for this is just it's too much this way and it's not enough this way. So we want to really widen that stitch, and we want to lengthen it too, to give us some easier space to work with. This, if I had kept going, I guarantee within a few seconds this would have all gotten jammed up and knotted in my machine, and I would have had to stop what I was doing and cut it out. So let's get these threads out of the way. You know, always pull your threads to the back. We're going to line these up again. Another thing I should mention that you don't want to do, you don't want to like really butt these up. You want them to be loosely butted together, okay? You don't want a Grand Canyon in the middle either. You just want a nice little, you know, slip right here, because the natural, you know, pull of the thread is going to pull it like this. So we want it just a little farther apart, so that it doesn't create like almost like a scar, like a ripple in the middle. If you get a little bit of that, it's not that big of a deal. But if you got like this big hunk in the middle, you know, you're going to be able to feel that through the quilt top. So again, if you're just throwing together a project for yourself, might not be that big of a deal. But if you're doing something for as a gift or for a client, you might not like the way that comes out. So if you have a problem with your machine pulling and pulling, regardless of the way you set your thread, then you're going to want to go ahead and maybe adjust your thread tension just a little and turn it down. When you turn it down, that means you have more top thread pulling around and through the layers, and you're going to be using less bobbin thread. If you turn it in the other direction, you're going to have the bobbin thread be coming up and over and using less top thread. So it's going to be tighter. So we want it a little bit looser. So you can turn it down to like a 2, you know, anytime you're satin stitching or doing a tight zigzag stitch, that's never a bad idea. So we're going to go ahead. Like I said, I have these like gently together, still have a nice little gap in the middle there. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to really, really widen this up quite a bit. We're going to go all the way up to 7, which is the max for my machine, see? And then we're going to take this all the way up to a 1. And now let's look at the difference. 1, you can see it's extremely easy for me to catch both sides of the fabric without having to butt them up against each other too hard. Really, really easy. So let's give it a go. 1, you can see how quickly and easily that's flowing, which is great, because when you're, you know, stitching a bunch of pieces together like this, you want that to run, you know, to get that process over with quickly so you can get on to the fun part. As you can see, we have a nice sturdy stitch. It's a good seam. It's not rippling up too much. It's got a little bit of a bubble. You know, that's kind of typical with batting in general. But like I said, if it bothers you, you can iron this when you've got all your pieces sewn together. Oh, and while we're looking at the back, I might as well just show you this. So as you can see, when I adjusted the thread tension, this is the top thread pulling over, and this is just the bottom thread, that thin little bit. So when you do it like that, it's loose, so it's nice and it doesn't bunch up. So that's definitely a big tip to keep in mind. All right, you guys, I just made this little sample to give you an idea of what it looks like when you lengthen your stitch. Now, I did my stitch at a 1. That's where I would start, but you can definitely lengthen it more. Keep in mind that as you move up to longer lengths, it's going to move faster through your machine. So if you're not comfortable sewing fast, you want to slow down the speed of your machine. But I did mine at a 1. This is a 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. Any of these are just fine. You're still getting enough thread in there to hold all your layers together. So play around with it a little bit, you know, find whatever you're comfortable with. You know, like I said, if using a shorter length is making it bunch more, then extend the length of your stitch. Every machine is different, so you're going to want to play around a little bit, but find whatever works for you before you get started on your actual project, and that way you'll avoid, you know, some trouble. All right, you guys, so there you have it. You can see right here what we've got going on. Looks great, you know, super easy and quick. You know, I hope this helped you guys out, made you realize that you should never throw away your scraps. You can always put them to good use. You know, I don't like to be wasteful. This stuff is expensive and it's fairly well made, so there's no reason for it to go in the garbage. If you guys have any questions, please hit me up down below. I answer all my questions. I read all my comments. I love communicating with you guys. Also, if you'd like to follow me on my Instagram, it's my quilts kick ass. You can jump over there and see all the projects I'm working on when I don't have time to videotape everything and upload it to YouTube. Also, if you're on the East Coast, I have 2 quilts, the Morrigan and the Eden, that are both going to be showing at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival. So definitely check those out. And if you see them, please, please, please hit me up and let me know, or take a photo with it and tag me in it. I'd love to see you. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks as always for watching, and take care.